Sean, we're here at the first Service Department Summit Americas in New York. Some of the themes we're talking about have changed since the first summit in London, some are the same. Perhaps still the most significant one is the level of institutional investment activity and understanding of this particular sector. Now, we've had some pretty big names here today from the investment community, which we probably wouldn't have done a couple of years ago. How do you think things have progressed since we collectively kicked off the summits with your input?
If we compare and contrast to 3 years ago, 4 years ago, if you go back to the first committee meeting, to bring awareness to the space, and what it centered around was, how do we get the investment community to take notice? How do we get coverage, in other words, analytical coverage, to make the investors feel there's a credible measurement of success and comp? So when you look at where we started, which was an awareness campaign, if you will, with the first conference in London, and then subsequently building on that with the wider ecosystem of advisors, both from real estate like CBRE or Savills or any of the advisors, then to the secondary, partner groups that are the banking facilitators, to then actually having the institutional investors join us here at a direct basis, such as MetLife, has been a significant progression in confidence, even when it comes to their time. They made a decision to come here to an audience that was largely not well represented a number of years back. Today, well represented, a cross-section, all age groups, covering, George, what are we talking? 10, 12 nationalities here, minimum, from Australia, India, Japan, all the way from Europe, as well as, and that's occurring in North America, in New York. That's a remarkable progress for credibility.
So we're making progress. What do we need to do collectively as an industry to do better to get even more engagement from these guys?
Certainly at the end of the last panel, it was clearly a discussion point as to what does that look like? What's our motivation? Well, depending on where you are in the evolution of your business. Some are small family-owned businesses, some are mid-sized, some are large. All of them have different mandates, but what everybody has in common is the search for the customer, the search for a frictionless dialogue with the customer, the CX experience, so that we book quickly. And then the other topic that came up was understanding. There's still a misunderstanding as to what term to use. Is it extended stay? Is it corporate housing? Is it service apartments? Depending on what part of the world you're in. And other industries do not have that problem. Automotive is automotive. Hotels are hotels. Now we're in a broader accommodations conversation, and the challenge for all of us is to come up with a universally accepted term so consumers can understand us.
And when we first started doing these conferences, the whole issue of Airbnb and the sharing economy and so on was just coming over the horizon. Now it's staring us full in the face, and this sector has perhaps been a bit more proactive and a bit more progressive at liaising with those kind of platforms, your company included. What do you think has been the impact of the sharing economy on the service department sector, and how do you see that going in the next few years?
Well, depending on which lens and who you talk to, it's either halo or horror. So if you take both, what is clear is, not unlike when Facebook entered the market, or Uber entered the market, or Lyft entered the market, there is a new way to democratize businesses. And we now know that is here to stay. We've seen that through history. We've seen when we went from horse and buggies to cars, air travel, lots of disruption and lots of disruptors. It's not the first time. So this is a sustainable way for distribution. In many respects, if you take the combination of what we saw in Expedia 20 years ago and other merchants, they brought attention to consumers and made it easier for consumers to book. I'd argue that if you take Airbnb as a proxy, they brought immense attention to service apartments and alternative accommodation, which has been a real benefit to our sector in many respects. And my comment may be slightly controversial in the sense that it's now made a massive consumer awareness program accessible to all of us. So there's a real halo effect from this, and then largely that has equally brought attention to it in a convenient way of what a investor will look like. Banks and other institutions now see a sustainable business in that. So that's a dramatic change, and is a long-term structural embedded offering today. Now it's what we do with it.
Mm-hmm. And specifically related to your company, how is the BridgeStreet Airbnb relationship working? What have you noticed, and what have you learned from it since you
What we've learned is that customers want choice, and our mandate from our customers is to provide them with a wide range of choice that includes Airbnb, but other products as well, that allows them to book single source quickly and efficiently. And our distribution channel and platform, that is part of that offering. So we'll continue to expand those offerings, because at the end of the day, we're customer led. Our clients are telling us they want choice. So we're providing them that choice. It may be through different channels. It can be through hotel channels, it can be through merchant models, it can be through Airbnb and like type products, which then allows our customer to book easily. It comes back to those that can allow the customer to book easily wins. And that's our mandate within the company.
And finally, Sean, what are your impressions of the event today? Our first go in New York. I think it's
London, Dubai, New York, where else? This has been incredibly successful because of the participation of the attendees. When you look at the wide diversification of the diversity alone of the attendee, we have, millennials that have started businesses that are no more than 3 or 4 years on a panel, holding immense attention, coupled with investment bankers, individual owners, conglomerates, partners such as Catton, and then the other ecosystem that support us, that understand the laws and the regulations. This I don't think it's a conference. I think it's a TED Talk. This is a big TED Talk. And that TED Talk is starting a dialogue that we've never had. And now it's connected between 3 global cities, and knowing your organization and peers, I'm sure there's another one in development. It's now aggregating a open source thinking. Maybe it's our version of a TED Talk.